If there is a dispute, then they are in trouble. The reason is that they have agreed. First of all, this is something illegal, as you correctly mentioned.
So let's dig deeper and deeper into the resale market.
Right.
Okay, so we know that there's the law and there's the market practice, and there's some uncommon practice that is illegal.
Correct.
Yeah, that takes place in the market, and I think this applies to any market. So let's say there's a buyer and there's a seller, and there's the buyer is a mortgage buyer.
Right.
So the buyer wanted to present a higher value contract, sales contract, to the bank so they can get higher LTV, loan to value, so they can raise more fund, more capital from the bank. So if the bank is saying I finance 60% or 70%, of course, if you put up the value from 1 million to 2 million, for example, which cannot be, I'm just giving an extreme case, then the 60% becomes 1.2.
Correct.
As compared to 600 if it was 1 million. So some brokers, unfortunately, they actually encourage this, and they tell buyers you can have a double contract. So they will sign one contract to present to the bank, and they will sign, and the same contract will be presented to the Land Department, which will make you subject to 4% more, but they still do it. And the other contract reflects the real agreement between the buyer and the seller, and that contract goes nowhere.
Right.
Yeah. So what if there's a dispute? What happens?
If there is a dispute, then they are in trouble. The reason is that they have agreed. First of all, this is something illegal, as you correctly mentioned, and I would definitely advise investors not to do this because of the circumstances they can put themselves in. Number one is
so one transaction, one contract.
One contract. So basically, what happens is that if you end up in a dispute, the government, the court, and everywhere else, they will go as per the contract that you actually signed and submitted. They will totally disregard the agreement that you have. That's a side agreement. The side agreement is supposedly signed to protect your right as a buyer in order not to pay the actual amount. But what if you end up in a dispute? Then the seller will ask you to pay the actual amount, and they will totally ignore your side agreement.
Okay.
And when it goes to the court, obviously that contract which was submitted supersedes this.
And
contract.
who's at fault? Because probably here everyone's at fault because everyone signed on it, right?
Yeah, the seller will be claiming the actual amount that is reflected in the agreement, and then you need to pay the remaining balance.
Okay. And what if the buyer also brought the other contract where the seller also signed?
They signed, but which
I think
one
this
will
is
have?
this is too circumstantial, and all these evidence have to be provided to the court.
To the court, the judge will descend and they decide at the end of the day. But considering that both parties signed a valid contract and submitted to the government entities, that's what's
the deemed formal, right?
Yes.
Okay. So so basically, unlike the rental agreements, this is not governed by DLD or by the Rental Dispute Committee, obviously. This is governed by Dubai courts. So if there's any dispute, it has to go to Dubai courts. Thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to leave all your questions in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to address all your concerns and questions personally. Feel free to tag a friend who may need to learn more about the real estate market, especially in the legal context. And of course, don't forget to follow any of my social media accounts that are mentioned below. Stay tuned for many more to come. Thank you.